Welcome in, everybody, to SEC State of Mind presented by FanDuel. You already know, that's Jason Campbell. I'm Taylor Davis. I try and keep him in line. It's hard every single week, my people. But as promised, we've got the second half of our episode, or maybe it's just the second episode. Not entirely sure how we're cutting this up, but we are here to give you our previews and picks along with the odds and spreads, thanks to our friends at FanDuel. The second round of games in the college football playoff happening New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Jason, did the first round get you more excited for the second round? Because maybe a couple were a little lackluster.
The two big games was really exciting to watch.
Totally.
That's playoff football, where it comes down to turnovers, comes down to which defense shows up, quarterback play, all those things, right? Coaches making crucial play calls in crucial moments. When you think about DeBoer making that fourth down call,
yeah, huge.
That changed the game. They get 7 points there, and it kind of got the morale going.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about Miami, Fletcher, game on the line, breaking that long 50-plus yard run against the Aggies defense that had been doing really well against the run.
Yeah.
Kind of spring forward them, but it ended again with their defense getting an interception because that's how the defense played all game, creating 3 turnovers. The other 2 games, let's just call a spade a spade. Those games were halftime, really, right? Like, it wasn't even a real competition from that standpoint of that you thought it was going to be any type of form of an upset.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, no disrespect to JMU or Tulane. I think they're really 2 great programs.
They are.
But I just feel like they should have faced each other, and one should have got into it instead of both of them.
I totally agree with you. If you're curious how we think that could happen, we talked about that in our first episode. So make sure if you didn't check it out, you go back and watch that one. But it definitely made me so excited for these games, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because these matchups are fully what you expect. There's really no one that, how did they get in here? No, like all of these teams have an argument, and you really feel like all of these games anyone could win. I feel that way anyway. I'm sure some people think that there's obvious reactions to some of these matchups, but I genuinely look at these and go, I could see anyone winning these. So it makes it super compelling. So it's going to kick off New Year's Eve with Miami versus Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Not an SEC team, so we're not going to get super in the weeds with this one, but obviously Miami showing what they did specifically at the line of scrimmage, defensively, really getting after and completely shutting down Texas A&M's otherwise pretty efficient offense this season, getting Marcel Reed totally off his game, and Ohio State that only put up 10 points against Indiana in the Big Ten championship. They've had a week off to rest and potentially prepare. I think that, there is an added element. It wasn't as clear who they were going to see, Texas A&M or Miami. That one really was a bit of a toss-up as opposed to what Georgia fully expected they were going to be seeing. But nonetheless, they did have a week to get healthy, go over what didn't work for them in the Big Ten championship. But this one, I don't really feel like I have a good read on, because I was a bit underwhelmed with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, but Indiana is the number 1 team in the nation, and they've put on a great show. So real brief here, because we're going to do our in-depth ones for the SEC, but knee-jerk reaction about this matchup.
My reaction is Jeremiah Smith versus the Miami Corners, right? So the advantage, I believe, in this game goes to Jeremiah Smith in that category. Ohio State's a 9.5 favorite versus Miami by FanDuel. 42.5 is the over-under. I think it's going to be a little less than 9.5.
Me too.
I think the way that Miami plays defense, the way they utilize Keontae Scott and blitzes to put pressure on quarterbacks, and also with Bain trying to block him, is, it takes 2 guys.
Yeah.
He just went against one of the best left tackles in college football and still had like 3 sacks, So the guy is a beast. When I think overall, the reason I'm going to go to Ohio State in this ball game is, for me, is you get Matt Patricia, who's a defensive coordinator that came from the NFL, 2 weeks to prepare, a week to prepare. And I'm sure they studied both teams, right? They didn't know or A&M, so they put work in for both. So essentially 2 weeks to prepare against Carson Beck. I think the advantage goes to Ohio State, right? Like Carson Beck hasn't looked great.
No.
In a while. And I think they're going to try to force some turnovers there. So I think with that being said, I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Ohio State wins.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised 9.5, but I wonder if that will move a little bit the closer we get to game time. We are recording this a good week before the game actually kicks off for a little bit of reference here. The next one will be New Year's Day, noon Eastern time, Oregon versus Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. Now, this one is going to be wild. Like I said in the last episode, I covered Texas Tech in their final game of the regular season. I have seen them up close. They are as advertised, specifically the defense. I mean, so much has been made and spoken about that defense, a lot because of the money they spent on it. The defensive line alone was $7 million in the transfer portal for just the defensive line. That is confirmed. That is out. It is wild to witness. But they have lived up to the checks that they have brought in, and the offense has some firepower with Baron Morton as the quarterback, a lifelong Texas Tech fan, grew up in Lubbock, has played his entire career at Texas Tech. So there's a lot of good to that team. But Oregon is the healthiest they have been in a very long time. And obviously they showcased that. They scored a touchdown on all 5 of their first possessions against JMU. Here's my thing, though. They gave up 509 yards against JMU. And everybody wants to say, well, they pulled their starters. That's not entirely true. JMU was able to move the ball majority of that game. The weakness of Texas Tech, if you have to point one out, maybe would be the offense. A weakness of Oregon would be the defense. So I think that matchup is going to be really interesting. Oregon's got offensive firepower. Dante Moore's been incredible, but Texas Tech's defense is one of the most incredible I've watched all season. So this one, again, I just can't get a full sense of confidence of who's coming out of these, but it's what you want in a playoff. Our friends at FanDuel have Oregon as a 1.5 point favorite with the over-under set at 52.5. So they also think this one is going to be incredibly close. Your take on this one?
Yeah, Dante Moore came out, firing on all cylinders against JMU. Regardless of who you play, from a quarterback perspective, he was on point, on target.
Yeah.
Guys were running open, but he was pinpoint accurate. He did have a couple of turnovers. So JMU did force him into a couple of turnovers, which is what Texas Tech is going to try to do, right? When you talk about Bailey, leading that defense, and those guys, that defensive front is the reason they're in this position, right?
Yes.
Like their money has been, they've caused a lot of problems. So not giving Dante Moore the opportunity to stand back there and go through those 1, 2, 3 progressions is going to be a huge key for Oregon's offensive line.
Yep.
And I saw JMU get a little pressure on that offensive line a little bit. But this game is going to come down to still, Dan Lannon has been in these situations before. People have counted his team out most of the year since the loss to Indiana. And I think they're trying to they're trying to prove something.
Yeah.
But like you said, defensively, it's not the Dan Lannon defense that he's used to and accustomed to. And I saw those guys, JMU quarterback, for the most part, if he had a little bit more time, like there are some guys they could have took advantage of and in the back end. And I expect Texas Tech with, their quarterback Morton to have an opportunity to do that. So this is going to come down. Defense wins championship, offense sells tickets. We live in a new day and era where, the ball is in the air. Gosh, man, I'm going to have to go Texas Tech in this ball.
I'm going Texas Tech. I really, because I think that's what Oregon has been able to do, just putting up the crazy yards and points to overcompensate for maybe a little bit of the weaker defensive side of the ball than we're used to seeing from the Ducks. That's going to be taken away by Texas Tech's defense, not just the defensive front that's going to get after Dante more than most, but even looking to the net, Jacob Rodriguez. Y'all know I feel very strongly that he should have been a Heisman finalist. He got more first place votes than Julian Sayin, who was in New York City. So they have depth defensively. They are big, they are physical, they are smart. I think that it's going to be harder for Oregon to overcompensate by putting a bunch of points on the board. I agree with you. I'm taking Texas Tech in this one. Man, those are going to be awesome. I'm super excited for those. All right, let's talk about the 4:00 Eastern game. one featuring an SEC team. That is Alabama versus Indiana in the Rose Bowl. They head to Pasadena, Indiana, the number 1 team in the nation coming off their first round bye. And as we spoke about in the last episode, Alabama coming off their win in Norman over Oklahoma. Our friends at FanDuel have Indiana favored 6.5 points. The over-under set at 48.5. And obviously, you know, there's been debate about Alabama even being in the playoff. The first 3-loss team in the playoff ever. And with the showing that they put against Georgia in the SEC championship, a lot of people felt they didn't deserve a spot. Well, they go into the first round and prove to you why Alabama thrives in a postseason environment. However, Indiana's had an incredible season. Indiana has had a historic season. And when you match these up statistically, Indiana has the advantage in almost all of them. They average over 10 points per game more than Alabama. They average nearly 100 total yards per game more than Alabama. They've been way more balanced offensively. It's been well talked about that Alabama's issues running the ball have made you scratch your head. Like, that is so not the blueprint of an Alabama offense, but it has been the case. Ty Simpson has 131 more pass attempts than Fernando Mendoza this season because Indiana has found success running the ball and has been able to distribute that more evenly. And Alabama has had to put a lot on Ty Simpson and the passing game. Mendoza has only been sacked 18 times this season, and Alabama has allowed over 2 sacks a game. So the offensive line has also been very different. Indiana is the number 1 team nationally in third down conversions, over 55.8% conversion rate on third down. Alabama just 42.5. Then defensively, Indiana has allowed just over 10 points per game, 257.2 yards per game, which is the 6th fewest nationally. IU has 9 more sacks and 31 more TFLs than Alabama does. So I'm telling you, you look across this thing statistically, you've got a difference. But then it occurred to me last night when I was doing this research, and I was like, but against who? So I pulled up strength of schedule, which is on ESPN's page of stat lists. It is now, you have the strength of record list, which obviously Indiana is number 1. You have your strength of schedule that you can hit that little toggle at the top. Alabama's strength of schedule is number 6 in the nation. Indiana's strength of schedule, 28th in the nation. So I'm sorry, all respect due to Indiana. You've done incredible things this season. I can't say enough good things about Fernando Mendoza. I really can't. But all of those stats go out the window a little bit to me because who you were doing them against comes into play in this conversation. That does not mean that I don't think Indiana is capable of winning this game and that they really are as good as advertised. But I absolutely think you have to take into consideration the caliber of opponents that you have put these kind of numbers up against.
Man, Rose Bowl is always one of my favorite bowl games to watch. And you just made a lot of valid points, and you probably gave a lot of people that's trying to pick this game some information.
Or a headache.
You know, one of the two. But FanDuel 6.5, that's almost a touchdown favorite. I wouldn't go that far in this ball game. The reason why, the eye test of watching Alabama come back against Oklahoma in the second half and how they found their rhythm. Their rhythm had looked lost for the last couple of weeks. And it's almost like ever since they got the fourth down play and then the punt drop and then the interception for the half, it almost like it rejuvenated something back into them where all of a sudden they got their confidence back. Alabama's a dangerous team coming into this ball game. And I've talked about this game because it's a neutral site. You know how many Alabama fans will be there? Like, it's a neutral site. It's not the advantage that if Indiana was playing this game in Indiana. If this is in Bloomington, this may be a different story because you get the home field advantage. There's no home field advantage here. And you talk about a defense that Alabama that only gave up 16 points per game on average during the regular season against, some tough opponents, like you say, top 6 schedule, strength of schedule. Like Mendoza, I give him this. He's resilient. He's tough. He knows how to fight back. We saw that in the Penn State game. We saw that, in the Big Ten game. After he took the first hit, first pass play, got rocked, and he ended up going out and coming back. Alabama, to me, are bigger up front on the defensive line.
Mhm.
And I think that's where the problem is going to happen for them. They're not going to allow him to stand back there and to play action pass because they're going to try to make Indiana one dimensional. If
Yes.
Alabama's going to try to win this game, they have to make the Indiana one dimensional. You can't let them run the ball. You can't let them establish the line of scrimmage. You got to put the ball in Mendoza's hands, who is the Heisman winner. But that's where the problem happens because now you turn loose your edge rushers. You turn
Yeah.
loose the defensive front to get into the pocket of Mendoza and to force turnovers. He has yet to have back-to-back multiple games of multiple interceptions. It just hasn't happened. He has zero
Mhm.
this entire year. So this is a guy that protects the football. He doesn't put it in harm's way, but will he face the amount of pressure that he's going to face against Alabama, which
Correct.
forces you to put the ball in harm's way?
Correct.
So when you think about Coach Womack, the defensive coordinator for Alabama, he was at Indiana before. You talk about
Mhm.
DeBoer, he was at Indiana before. It was a short stint, but they was there.
Yep.
So they know a little bit about the inside of Indiana. And uh, and and let's face it, Indiana has a really great defense in themselves.
Yeah.
There's a reason Ohio State only mustered 10 points in the Big
Yeah.
Ten championship. These guys can play defense. And Coach Cincinnati, he's sitting there. How do I keep my guys motivated and not feel happy that we won the Big Ten championship and we beat Ohio State and we're the one
Yep.
team? It's a difference between being a hunter and the one getting
I
hunted.
did.
And now you the team getting hunted. Alabama used to be in the reverse. So now they have nothing to lose. There's no pressure on them in this ball game. DeBoer has gotten through the Oklahoma game so the fans can stop calling for his job. And now all of a sudden he's in a win situation where he feels like we weren't supposed to be here.
Right.
And now we are.
Yeah.
That's the difference. If you catch a team in that situation with nothing to lose, it's a dangerous game for Indiana. And I think Alabama upsets Indiana in the Rose Bowl.
Jay, we are on the same page this week. That never happens. I'm calling for the upset. I think Alabama knocks off the number 1 team in the bracket. That is crazy. And now because we both said that, it's like on College Game Day when they all pick the same. It never ends up happening. But I just, watching them in Norman and then looking at that strength of schedule differential, like Indiana may be tested in ways that they have not been tested all season in the Rose Bowl. Meanwhile, Alabama has had these tests every flipping week of this season, but it has created like a calloused skin for them. It created a callous mentality. They have this block to even acknowledging adversity. They just figure out a way to get it done. And I don't know that you even pointed out like Indiana being gut checked and having to pull one out against Penn State. Penn State lost to Northwestern and fired their head coach. Like it's just that's where to me, have you been prepared enough? Have you been equipped enough in gauntlets of competition? And yes, the Big Ten championship against Ohio State is one of them, but Ohio State couldn't put up many points against Texas, and that was week 1 of the season. And Texas wasn't good then. So the discrepancy in how good are these respective conferences is really going to be on display in this one. And I think it's going to be really compelling, but I just lean Alabama. Someone tranquilize me. I don't know why the heck I'm doing that, but I'm doing it anyway. All right, moving on to the night game, wrapping up the second round, the quarterfinals of the CFP playoff, 8:00 Eastern time, the rematch, Ole Miss versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which is great. New Orleans is going to be easy for Georgia and Ole Miss fans to get to. Obviously, a little bit easier for Ole Miss, and you got to assume Ole Miss fans are going to flock to it because they haven't been there. Like Georgia's like, we're used to this, you know what I mean? But Georgia's got to be careful because this was the exact same scenario for them last season. They were the number 2 seed, SEC champion, got the first round bye. They have to go just a couple states over to New Orleans to play in the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, who had won at home the week before and knocked the dogs off in New Orleans. So this is a similar situation. Georgia can't just rest easy because they're facing a team that they already beat during the regular season, because lest we not forget, that one was a close game for 3 quarters. Georgia didn't really have command of that thing until the 4th quarter, and they ramped up the pressure, got Trinidad Chambliss totally off his game. Really, that was the first true test for Trinidad Chambliss's career. It was October 18th of the regular season, and Georgia ended up scoring the final 17 points of the game to make the final score 43-35. The Dogs put up 510 total yards of offense, with Gunnar Stockton having 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and their defense held Ole Miss to their season low 351 yards. No one had held them under 400 the rest of the season. Neither team obviously lost after that game from then on. And honestly, Georgia's defense has somehow gotten even better since then. They haven't allowed a rushing touchdown in the last 4 games. Their pass rush has emerged, which was also a point of conversation midseason. Where the heck is Georgia's pass rush? They had 8 sacks over their first 9 games. They've had 12 over the last 5 games. So they have figured some things out defensively, have looked lights out. Gunnar Stockton has been methodical. He's been efficient. He has taken care of the ball. And also with Ole Miss's schedule, I found this interesting. Ole Miss did not have to play 5 of the top 8 SEC defenses, that being Texas A&M, Texas, Missouri, Alabama, or Auburn. Georgia played 4 of the 5. So that's definitely something you keep in mind. If I'm going to point it out with Indiana, I got to point it out with some of the SEC teams as well. Ole Miss really, they even had some trouble putting up numbers and points against LSU, which we know had a really tough season. So it's going to have to be a much improved game for Trinidad Chambliss against this Georgia defense. He was 1 of 10 for just 1 yard in the 4th quarter. So he's got to figure out how to finish if they're going to have a chance. All 35 of their points that they scored in the first 3 quarters. So definitely seems comfortable for Georgia in this one. FanDuel has them as a 6.5 point favorite with the over under at 55.5. What will be keys in this game for you?
Well, that schedule, not having to face all those tough defenses, is the reason Lane Kiffin got $90 million and in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, you're right.
When you think about it as a whole, not having to play a lot of the top defenses this year, it created that opportunity for them to rise in the polls, an opportunity to be in a position right now where they are. I wish Ole Miss was kind of playing Ohio State and Georgia was playing Miami. So they didn't get the same rematch again. But
yeah,
here we are. We got a rematch, right? So it's hard to beat a team twice. I will say that. But the difference for Georgia this year compared to last season is Carson Beck got hurt in the SEC championship game.
You're right.
And then that's when Gunnar Stockton came in and they was able to finish that game off, but they limped into the Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
And you saw the difference between Gunnar Stockton not having a full time to be prepared for that game and a Notre Dame team that went all the way to the national championship.
Yeah.
So this year is a different thing. This year, Gunnar Stockton is rolling. He's having an outstanding season.
Yeah.
They're going into this game getting healthy. That's a big part of it. And they have all their weapons as ready to go. But the biggest one is it's the same quarterback that finished the regular season and played the regular season. Now their quarterback in the Sugar Bowl. So and you got to know Kirby's playing that game in their head. He's playing that game like, you didn't get this done last year. You did this. I don't want to hear it. Blase, get it done. This is what they're going to be doing. This is what they're saying. And Ole Miss is going to be sitting and they're going to say, hey, look, we understand. We got to win the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Like, to have any chance in this ball game, they understand they have to win the line of scrimmage. If you let Georgia establish the run game, you're in trouble because that's when the play action pass starts to take over. That's when they hit those deep over routes to the tight end, the end cuts to the outside receivers. It's because now they're getting you sucked up inside to stop the run, and they start to go over top. So if you're Ole Miss, you have to keep Georgia one-dimensional. You got to find a way to create pressure. You got to line up. You got to change your defensive looks, pre-snaps. If you're Georgia in this ball game, don't have the self-inflicted plays.
Yeah.
Don't do what Oklahoma did. Don't give your opponent an opportunity. If you look up person for person and you look at the stat sheet, you say, okay, Georgia should win this game. What's the reason they shouldn't? It's going to be the turnovers.
It's true.
If they turn the ball over and they give Ole Miss is going to be very confident. They went into Athens and, like you said, pushed this to a 4-quarter ball game.
Yeah.
It's in the 4th quarter, their offense winning up. But up to that point, Georgia defense could not stop them.
Mm-hmm.
So you would not get the same Georgia defense in this game because great defensive coaches, they change what they do. They're not
Yes.
going to do the same thing. And Ole Miss, they'll have some different things they did offensively, but first they're going to see if you can stop what they do really well first. So they'll have their backup plan, but they'll start the game off with some of the stuff they did in the first 3 quarters of that first game. They just may change up the formations and how they do it, but the plays will look similar.
Right.
Just so to the players, there's not too much thinking. It's just we did it in a different formation. So I expect this game to be a close one. I do, but I think, I like the line. I think it is the 6.5 line when you think about, Coach Golden just got the head coaching job. You take a coach like Lane Kiffin, there's a reason, he got the money he got at LSU.
Yeah.
It's not going to show up in a Tulane game, but it'll show up in this ball game. And
Interesting.
It'll show its face in this game.
I agree with you. And I think even the reality that Georgia has trailed in 6 of their 7 SEC games in the regular season. And you may look at that and go, oh, well, then obviously they can get got. No, it's the same thing we were just talking about in Alabama. There is a mental component to this team that adversity does not shake them. It's just like okay, we adjust and we figure it out kind of thing, because you do see the potential in Ole Miss to get up on them. I mean, Ole Miss can be explosive. I don't even remember. It was a matter of seconds before they had points on the board in their first game. And obviously I get it. It's Tulane, but that's been their MO this season. The explosive plays, they go deep. Trinidad Chambliss is not scared of that. So, but I think the time of possession maybe bit them a little bit in early season matchups, and specifically that loss against Georgia, because Georgia was going, okay, fine, we'll let you, score in 12 seconds, and then we're going to hold the ball for the next 5 minutes. So I think that one really got them, the time of possession differential in that first game. But you do see the potential that Ole Miss is going to hit some explosives. They're going to put points on the board and drive quickly. Georgia's not going to get rattled. They have trailed 6 times this season against SEC competition. They just pull up their bootstraps and figure out how to go get points on the board after you. So I like Georgia in this one too. I kind of could see it being similar to the first one, like a really compelling back and forth 3 quarters, and then Georgia goes pedal to the metal in the fourth, and it ends up being more of a obvious score differential. So
emotions.
Yeah, I'm super excited for these. I think it's going to be the best way to kick off 2026. You got any New Year's resolutions, Jay?
No, I just think Lane's going to show up. I think Lane's going to show up in the Sugar Bowl in a suite somewhere.
Stop.
It's 50 minutes down the street.
You think he would?
It would be so Lane Kiffin.
It would be so him, but doesn't he have? He needs to be working. There's transfer portal to be preparing for.
Hey.
I love that you just shot down my New Year's resolution question.
No, my bad. I did shoot that down. I did. My bad.
You said no.
Well, I already work out, right?
Right.
So
we know.
I already work out. So that's not one of those things people started for 2 weeks. They pay all this money
and then stop going.
They stop going. But if I'm a gym, I love it. I'm gonna promote the heck out of it and everything. You'll keep paying me, and you're not even showing up to the gym.
I don't care.
I keep sending you encouraging letters to show up one day. But thank you for.
Oh dear. Okay.
Be better spiritually.
Love that.
Be better spiritually.
Always a good one.
2, be more intentional on doing things for us like family. Just be more intentional.
Yeah.
We can get so busy that we forget about being intentional with the ones we're around the most.
Totally.
That are the top 2 for me. Number 3, maybe try and travel a little more.
Ooh, I like that one. I love that one.
Yeah, try to travel a little more. And the other one I would probably say help turn Auburn back to winning.
Mic drop. Literally couldn't have said it better myself. I love that for you, J Cam. Make it happen. 2026. Year of the Tigers.
Yeah, you're the Tigers. We're back, baby. We're back.
Just one New Year's resolution away from Auburn being competitive again. I love it. Well, look, they are in good hands under Alex Golesh, and a lot of these teams are in a period of transition. Staffs are continuing to assemble. Moves are continuing to be made, lest we not forget Michigan is open currently in the light of one of the worst scandals that I have heard of in college football. Pretty terrible for all involved. But that keeps the Michigan job open, and no telling what they're going to end up doing there. So more moves to come, and transfer portal news happens every single day. So lots to look forward to in 2026. Obviously, the podcast will continue. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. Podcast is going to get bigger and better. Okay. It's just going to keep growing. That's what we like to see. So it's going to be a great year. And we wish all of our listeners a very blessed, safe, happy new year. So with that, that is going to do it for us on SEC State of Mind presented by FanDuel. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. We are available wherever you get your podcasts. If you prefer to listen to us on audio, if you like to watch on video, make sure you find us on Bleav's YouTube channel. We have an entire playlist just for our show, so all the episodes are listed there. Like I said, we did a first half of this episode breaking down the first round of playoffs, talking the group of 5 conversation, some other stuff, so make sure you go back and check that out if you haven't already. We do have a few exciting guests in the can for early 2026, so you are not going to want to miss those episodes. It's a great reason to subscribe so that you get notified whenever we drop an episode. But that's going to do it for us. 2025. Peace out. Thanks for the memes. And here's to 2026. J Cam, let's do it.
Let's do it.
See y'all.
See y'all.